In this episode of Vinyl Haul, we've got quite a bit of death metal, but also heavy, prog, and speed, including a record that many others had on their top 10 lists for last year, but I'm just getting to now. So clearly the thing you should do is stay tuned. First up is the debut studio album from American death metal band 200 Stab Wounds. This is Slave to the Scalpel, originally released in 2021 by Maggot Stomp Records, but now reissued in 2023 by Metal Blade Records. So needless spoken intro aside, we got pummeling double bass, blistering riffs, and low guttural vocals, certainly bringing to mind their old school death metal influences. Certainly hard to avoid the Cannibal Corpse worship in many parts, but there are also some moments of autopsy and suffocation here. Cool melodic leads blending well with the groove, slam, and occasionally thrashy bits, often at a mid-pace. Lots of jumps from speed to chug and back again to keep things moving along. And if you love pinch harmonics, there are plenty here as well. The vocals are certainly competent and aggressive, but also typical. Not bad though. They work. Production on this one is balanced and with decent separation, also giving the drums a notable punch. I should also point out one fun feature on the vinyl, and that is the locked groove at the end of side 2. There's this ominous, creepy chant sound at the end that simply repeats over and over again until you lift the needle. You don't see locked grooves much these days, but they're fun when they definitely show up. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP, Oxblood and Grey Melt. Also have a printed inner sleeve. We got full lyrics, a picture of the band, and some credits. As for favorites on this one, definitely Tow Rope Around the Throat, Slave to the Scalpel, and Paths to Carnage. No music videos for this one that I could find, but there are plenty of live clips on YouTube for this band, and I would highly recommend checking those out. So at a mere 27 minutes, this is a pretty quick listen, and given the quality of tracks, you might be left wanting more, which is good, of course. Also keep in mind that this is a 45 RPM record. I mean, it's funny to play at 33 if you want some serious down-tuned sludge instead, but yeah, play it at 45. I speak from experience here. Anywho, we've got some standard old-school death metal, but with enough change-ups and a wealth of riffs to keep it moving along. Definitely digging this album, but also thinking that they have some room to branch out a bit and maybe differentiate themselves from other bands on future releases. Speaking of which, they're slated to release a new album in 2024, so definitely looking forward to that. And I should mention these guys are great as a live band. You should absolutely catch them when they play your town. Next is a compilation of Swedish metal bands from the early years of its namesake's scene. This is Death in Gothenburg, released in 2017 by Voivod. Great label name. So the album title might be somewhat misleading, as there are a few bands leaning heavily into thrash as well, such as Pagandom, whose vocalist is tapping a little bit into Sacred Reich at times. There's also Sarcasm, which is death thrash along the lines of early Possessed, and Braindead, also death thrash, but with a punky side to it. And even punkier is Intoxicate, with their curiously titled Tango with Nietzsche. Nietzsche misspelled, by the way. And yes, there is death metal here as well. Exempt bring us the growling and menacing track Laboratory Sickness, with some shades of early Morbid Angel mixed with some clearly Swedish death riffing, buzz and all. Also Ceremonial Oath with their blackened vocals and the track The Last Name of God. And Cadus with their gothic death track Beyond Salvation. Overall, a nice mix of death metal styles here, which keeps it rather interesting. Of course, you already know a couple of the bands on here, such as Dark Tranquillity and In Flames, but the comp also features bands with members who would later go on to bigger bands, such as Oscar Droniak of Hammerfall, Tom Englund of Evergrey, and Anders Ivers of Tiamat. In the case of Ivers, he actually helped compile the tracks on this record, which is actually pretty cool. Also really digging the raised lettering here on the album title, though maybe a more interesting image could have gone with it. I mean, if you're going to spend the money on an extruded album title, maybe an evocative cover image would have been good too. But you know what? It's not the biggest deal in the world. As for the vinyl variant, it is 1 LP red. It is limited to 1,000 copies. Yep. There. Also has an inner sleeve. A nice collage of some of the bands there, as well as info on all of the demos that each band's song pulls from. Pretty cool. Very good read, I would say. As for favorites, definitely Snail Death by Sarcasm from their 1990 demo, Void of Tranquility by Dark Tranquility from their 1991 demo, and In Flames by, of course, In Flames from their 1993 demo. So I feel that if you're looking for a purely melodic death metal comp that sounds classically Gothenburg, that's not what this is. The glut of these bands are aggressive, sometimes raw, and even a bit dark, which I dig. In fact, I'm happier than I thought I'd be with this one, seeing as I did blind buy it. So whether you're interested in this from a historical point of view, or you're just wanting to hear some old Swedish death metal demos, check this one out. Definitely recommended. Next up is the 6th studio album from American power thrash band Destructor. This is Blood, Bone, and Fire, released in 2023 by Shadow Kingdom Records. So the speed assault of the title track brings us straight into this record, along with a killer old school production, which really hammers home the furious drums, crunching yet melodic riffs, and the gravelly power metal vocals of founding member Dave Overkill, who hovers somewhere between Bobby Ellsworth and Biff Byford. We also get a blurring of the lines between speed, thrash, and trad metal here, similar to classic Overkill, Exciter, and Agent Steel. And while there's no denying this is firmly rooted in a more classic metal style, it isn't stagnant or tired sounding, and is a lot better than some of the more formulaic new wave of trad metal bands I hear who are vainly trying to capture that power and energy, but ultimately without any real substance. Destructor avoids those modern pitfalls entirely and gives us a record that really holds its own in a lot of ways, including in songwriting, heavy production, and just really giving it their all. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP Fire. It is limited to 400 copies. Of course, it also comes in blood and bone as well, as you can imagine, hence the title. Also have an insert, full lyrics, as well as credits and pictures of the band. And it also comes with a poster. Open that up right here for you. There you go, with some of the album art, picture of the band, and all of that. As for the favorites, definitely Blood, Bone, and Fire, killer track, also Never Surrender, and Hammering the Steel. Check out all 3 of those. Also, there is a music video for Heroic Age. You should check that out at the Destructor Cleveland YouTube channel. So to be honest, I hadn't really kept up with this band since their 1985 debut album, Maximum Destruction, which is certainly an underground classic, no doubts about that. They did release a handful of records in the 21st century, which I've yet to hear, but gotta say this new album is kind of making me want to look into those because this 36-minute runtime just flew by and definitely prompted me to spin this repeatedly. Overall, this is a band that could show a lot of younger trad metal bands a thing or two about how it's done. So yeah, you should check out this record. Very recommended. Next is a compilation of mostly re-recorded tracks from Canadian progressive metal band Voivod. This is Morgoth Tales, released in 2023 by Century Media Records. So in celebration of the band's 40th anniversary, they decided to re-record one song from almost every classic album of theirs, Sorry War and Pain, as well as perform one new song, such being the title track. The album opens with Condemned to the Gallows, which was originally on the Metal Massacre 5 compilation album from Metal Blade. Great obscure track, but I might have been equally happy with something from the first album, maybe Voivod or Warriors of Ice. I do appreciate that many of the choices here are lesser expected songs. I mean, Thrashing Rage and Pre-Ignition come to mind. I should also mention that these are re-recorded by the current lineup of Voivod, though a couple past members do guest play on the album. The revisiting of Rise has Eric Forrest, or E-Force, on bass and vocals, and Rebel Robot features Jason Newsted, or J-Sonic, on bass. No Blackie, I guess. As for the new song, Morgoth Tales is an equal blending of old and modern Voivod, notably in its respective time shifts. My guess is this might be their way of summarizing their musical career in a single song. You can let me know in the comments if you feel the same, because you might. Also, the CD version has a cover tune on it as well, the song Home by Public Image Limited. Hadn't checked it out because it's not on the vinyl, and I gotta admit, I really can't stand Pill. But if you have an opinion on it, you should share that too in the comments. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP, classic black. Custom labels there for you on both sides. Also have an insert with the album art here. And we got some pictures there and some credits. And it does open up a little bit. Give you more liner notes and lyrics and all that fun stuff. And more pictures. How about that? Favorites of this one include Killing Technology. I've always loved that song. I love this version. Also Macro Solutions to Mega Problems and Pre-Ignition. There are music videos for the tracks Morgoth Tales and Fix My Heart, as well as a lyric video for New Age Fractal. You can find all of that at the Century Media YouTube channel. So while it's fun to hear these renditions, do I really think them essential? Probably not. This release might be more for the diehard Voivod fan, as I'm not sure the differences are profound enough between the originals and these re-recordings to draw the more casual listener. The new versions here are certainly cleaner and more precise at times than their original versions, and that might be a deal breaker for those wanting more of a raw and relentless energy that this band had in their earlier period. So maybe stream it first and decide accordingly. Next up is a compilation of tracks from American blackened speed metal band Midnight. This is Shocks of Violence, originally released in 2017 by Hell's Headbangers, but now reissued in 2023 by Metal Blade Records. So unlike the other Midnight comp that Metal Blade reissued along with this one, Shocks of Violence is very heavy with cover tunes, 16 out of the 25 tracks to be precise. The rest are from an EP of the same name, as well as from demos, live recordings, and splits. The cover selection ranges from more obscure bands to a few that most of you probably know, like Venom, Girl School, and of all bands, Quiet Riot. But of course, these aren't straight covers, as they've been remolded into the Midnight sound, as you might expect if you know this band. So since this is mid-career material from Midnight, you can expect that the punk energy is still prominent in these tracks, and a few of the bands they picked to cover as well, such as the Spits and the Pagans. Overall, a lot of speedy, chord-driven repetition and raw production sound, but without a lot of the metal influence you get on later releases. There is a little of it here, just not much. I should also mention the sound quality of the two live tracks, Unholy and Rotten and On the Wings of Satan. Aside from the amusing stage banter, the sound is basically low-end bootleg quality, but maybe that'll add to the enjoyment for fans who like the rawness of Midnight, so maybe this is a feature and not a bug. You can decide, of course. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 2 LP Smoke. Some cool labels here. And the bell design there. Also comes the gatefold. Most of the information is on the gatefold. You have lyrics to all of the namesake tracks, the Shocks of Violence EP tracks, as well as the releases for the other songs in there, and the artwork for those. Pretty cool. As for favorites on this one, definitely Ready for Destruction. It's from the Shocks of Violence EP, as well as the Venom song Too Loud for the Crowd, and the demo version of Cross Held High. Anyways, if you have any sort of aversion to aggressive punk, this era of the band might put you off, and in that case, you should probably stick to their last couple studio albums. And if you're not into cover tunes of any sort, you'd probably be better off going with the other Midnight comp that the label reissued, such being Complete and Total Hell. However, if you're a fan of the entirety of Midnight, then this is a solid collection of raw and otherwise tough-to-find tracks that you'll likely get into. As for me, I dig this, but the onslaught of covers can be a bit much at times, so I tend to go to Complete and Total Hell more often if needing to hear a Midnight comp. But you know what? To each his own. Next is the latest EP from Finnish melodic death metal band Insomnium. This is Songs of the Dusk, released in 2023 by Century Media Records. So here we get acoustic passages interwoven with moments of mid-paced gothic death throughout, but occasionally drops into periods of double bass madness and rapid riffing, the latter of which vaguely blackened. There are synths in the back providing a cold and melancholic atmosphere. The overall melodicism here is dark but also epic and even cinematic in parts. Vocals are deep and growly and with a degree of echo that gives them more depth and distance, though you'll also get some brief cleans in the final track. As for the solos, they're almost neoclassical in structure and certainly delve into the harmonic often enough. Also, if these tracks look a little familiar to some, they were previously released as bonus tracks from the limited edition CD of Anno 1696, which isn't just extra material but a continuation of the story on that full-length album, if that's of interest. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP red. It is a Night Shift merchandise and European tour exclusive. It also has an etching on the B side which reads, "We roam the twilight, we roam the night in concentric circles, all the way to the disc label." So that's kind of fun. We also get an insert here with some lyrics and some pics, as well as more of that and credits on the reverse. Of the 3 tracks on this EP, my favorite is Stained in Red, though realistically all 3 are pretty great. It's only 22 minutes long, so it's definitely a quick listen. Anyways, there's also a music video available for Song of the Dusk, and you can find that at the Century Media YouTube channel. So when I reviewed Insomnium's Shadows of the Dying Sun album a couple years back for my 30-day death metal challenge, my opinion wasn't exactly favorable. And yet, I really dug this EP, so maybe that means I should look into more of the newer material. Of course, feel free to chime in and let me know what you'd recommend from this band in the comments below, because I am interested. Next up is the second studio album from formerly UK and now international death metal band Cruciamentum. This is Obsidian Refractions, released in 2023 by Profound Lore Records. So it's been 8 years since these guys put out their first full-length album, Charnel Passages. In fact, you might remember that in a previous episode of Hook Me Up, my buddy Eric introduced me to that record, and I did praise it a little. So when I heard a second album was coming out for this band, I was absolutely curious about it, and thus, here we are. Anyways, a slow and chord-heavy doom riff opens the record in the form of Charnel Passages. Yes, the song name is also the name of their last album. From there, the blasts and growls commence with plenty of cool fills from the former and aggression and intensity from the latter. Shades of Morbid Angel and Bolt Thrower here, especially morbid, with some of that incantation and immolation flavor still intact. As implied, there are changes between blasty death and melancholic doom throughout, so no stagnancy here for sure. Riffs have a melodic soar and even dissonance to them at times, though main riffs are typically rapid and brutal. The doom can even drop to near funeral doom levels, especially in the final track. Overall, it works. And if this record feels at least a little different from the last one, some of that might have to do with the near complete lineup change, except for guitarist and founding member Dan Lowndes. He's also not on lead vocals anymore. He's handed that off to new singer and bassist Chris Eakes, or Aches. Regardless of the change, I have no real complaints. But if I did have some gripes, it'd be mostly aimed at the bloat in the bookend tracks. I mean, each could have been chopped down at least a little bit and remained effective, but this is a minor complaint. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is blue with gold marble swirl. There you are. There you are. You also get a gatefold here with lyrics and pics of the band. Pretty cool. Favorites on this one are Aberrant's Evangelium, Necropolis of Obsidian Mirrors, and Interminable Rebirth and Abomination. Great song titles, by the way. Also, if you're looking to hear tracks, there is a visualizer video for Scorn Manifestation and an audio clip for Aberrant's Evangelium. They're available at the Profound Lore Records YouTube channel. So with a greater amount of atmosphere, aggression, and moments of speed, I feel Cruciamentum really came back from those 8 years totally swinging. Or 6 years if you count the Paradise Envenomed EP. Granted, they aren't reinventing the wheel here, but they aren't disappointing in the slightest either. In fact, I think it's time I stop dragging my feet and actually buy Charnel Passages, because this is certainly a band worth exploring. So just a couple other records I picked up that I have less to talk about, but are certainly worth showing. Starting with the debut 7-inch EP from Bangladeshi blackened death metal band Oribus. This is Arise in Impurity, originally released in 2016, but issued on vinyl for the first time in 2017 by Slaughterhouse Records. So not the most amazing production or perfect performance, but still fairly listenable. Definitely more death than black, and with some melodic thrash elements as well. Out of the 3 full tracks here, you should check out Bad Blood Hunter. I feel it's my favorite. My copy is numbered 73 out of 500 pressed. Also, if you're interested, it's currently available on Bandcamp for about $7 US. And if you go that route, the digital copy will also get you a bonus track of their cover of the Venom song Black Metal. So there you go. Just a quick look at the vinyl here. It's Some nice little black and red splatter pattern there for you. Cool labels on both sides. Also get an insert. Got some lyrics there for you, as well as some credits and all of that. Also, I picked up this 10-inch EP from American death metal band Massacre. This is Mythos, released in 2022 by Steel Breaker Records. So basically, it's a 4-track EP focused on the Lovecraft mythos. These days, Massacre is still fronted by Cam Lee and those amazing death growls, but we also have Raga Johansson on guitar for the last 4 years, so that's in the mix too. Very aggressive and heavy, and certainly in line with their last full-length album, Resurgence, from 2021. Really dig all 4 tracks on this EP, though the Dunwich horror and the mythos that Lovecraft built are particularly good. And as last check, the Bandcamp page for this one says there are about 3 of these left in stock, so you might want to act quickly if you're interested, or hope another distro has it somewhere. Overall, worth checking out. As for the vinyl, got a nice blue on this one. It is a 10-inch, of course. There you go, both sides. It also came with a little ad for Massacre's Bandcamp page. You can check out some of their other releases if you're interested. And I'd recommend it because, you know what, Massacre's a really good band. So there you go. Massacre. Mythos. So another good month of buys, including that 200 Stab Wounds reissue, which was a long time coming, given how tough the original was for me to find at a decent price. Very much appreciate the reissue. Also really digging that Gothenburg comp and the Insomnium EP, but I'm betting some of you got some killer records in the last month or so. You should let me know what you're digging these days for your recent purchases. And of course, don't be shy with the album or band recommendations either for me, because I always appreciate those. Anyways, drop all of that and anything else you have in the comments below. Of course, if this is your first time to my channel and you're like, who's this guy and what's this all about? Well, my name is Matt. This is the Accusation Network, where each and every week we do videos on classic and modern metal, as well as metal vinyl collecting. If you're interested in that, definitely give this video a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so, and definitely share some of my videos with some of your friends. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.